Hi everybody. I thought I'd do an update video on my Match.com review and my dating, because I've been talking about dating on my page lately. So I decided to make some changes on my account because basically I've said I'm a brown person. You've seen I'm a brown person from my videos on gardening and stuff, because you've seen my arm. I don't show my face, but you've seen my arm. But I decided I'm on Match in my local area. In my local area, I live like outside of a metro area, big metro area. But in the part I live in, it's pretty country and pretty white. So being a brown person, it can be hard to find somebody to date and all that stuff. But I do pretty well for myself. I just have to go into the closer to the metro area. But I decided to try out a few different areas because you can change your zip code. So I decided to try out some different areas. Like, I tried out Portland. I tried Seattle. Like, I got a little bit of a response from Portland. Seattle, like, the response I would say was worse than I get in my actual area that I live in, which was, it wasn't that surprising because where I live is more diverse, and where I use the zip codes, it wasn't as diverse. But I noticed when I use Texas zip code, I decided to use Houston. And then it was like really kind of funny because I decided to see who would respond. And I noticed I had a response from a lot of black men. They weren't American though. They seemed like they might have been like from Africa, Nigeria, different places. There were some black men that were American, and they had like gold chains and stuff. And it's like, oh, that's not really my type. And they had tattoos. I got some of that. But then there was the whole other side that was like completely different. I started getting doctors and stuff, lawyers, engineers. And then one thing I noticed that I get a lot in my area, I get a lot of Asian men, specifically Indian men. A lot of Indian men in my area ask me out. Well, not in my area because I live far away from everything. So Indian men in like the metro area in general. And then like people around the Houston metro area were like asking me out and stuff. But it's like, I could be a gold digger. I could date the doctor. I could date the lawyer. I could date the engineer. But it's like, if I'm not attracted to you, I'm not going to lead you on and try and get stuff from you. I'm not a gold digger. It's like, oh, I don't know how to say it. If I'm just not into you, I'm not going to date you. I'm not going to try and use you and lead you on. I don't see a point in that. But if I like you, I'm into you, and I can see or hope there could be a future, I'll give you a chance. And then like some people are like, you're getting doctors, you're getting lawyers, you're getting engineers, all these like who would be considered high value men. But it's like, you might be high value, but I might not be into you. So does it really matter that you're high value? I'd rather go date the contractor or the programmer who I might have more in common with and have a happier life with than the doctor, the lawyer, and all that other stuff. Yeah. So that was interesting. And then another city I tried out, well, metro area, Atlanta. In Atlanta, in the metro area, I mainly got like pretty much the same thing. Because I did get white men too in Texas, but not as many. But, oh, and then I got Middle Eastern men too. Middle Eastern, Asian, North African. I got all that in there too. But in Atlanta, I also pretty much got the same demographic and not so many white men. A lot of black men from like different places and stuff, and Asian men. More like Indian men as far as Asian, which was interesting. But then I went to the New York metro area, and I was getting men from like New Jersey and different places. And then I would get there was one guy, we connected and everything, but then I realized after a while it probably wouldn't work out. He was a nice Polish guy. Everything was cool, but then he like had like this weird overall fetish, which was weird. Yeah, and I talked to a lot of Dominican guys and Puerto Rican guys, and they were cool. And there were a few black men, not too many. More like Polish, Dominican, Puerto Rican. Yeah, because over there, like on the East Coast, like white people are more like identifying as like a specific culture, race, or whatever you want to say. And on the West Coast, it's like, yeah, I'm just white, and it might say like I'm Irish or something, but it's like no real culture. It's just like, yeah, I heard I'm Irish, but over there, it's like you have the culture and you do cultural things, you go to church and all that stuff. California, not so much. And then I tried Toronto. Wait, no. Did I try Toronto? Do they have Toronto? Or maybe, I don't know. I ended up talking to people from Toronto. I'm not sure if I did Toronto or if it was just in my like metro area. I don't know. But I won't focus on Toronto. But yeah, it was pretty diverse. But it was interesting because I did really well with men in New York too. They were like really successful men. I don't know. Maybe it's because like I live in California, and California is known for diversity and everything. But the part of California I live in is like super white. But then when I go to the other area, people are like, yeah, I don't want to go there. It's like too white. Because it's kind of like how like in the South, people are like in like their metro areas, but how I hear they're like in their metro areas. But outside those metro areas, they have like sundown towns or whatever. And I guess you could say where I live, I'm not going to say I live in like a sundown town or anything, because it's like you can come outside at night and everything, and it's safe. It's just there's like nothing to do, and it's like a country suburb. And I even say this myself because I live like in a downtown area of the town, but I wouldn't necessarily go walking off too far from where I live because they're empty fields and stuff. And then people are out. Sometimes people are racist, because I used to come home after, well, not come home after work, but after I'd get off work, sometimes I'd walk over to Target, and then there's like interesting places, like you drive a block down away from Target, they're empty fields and stuff, and they're like cows and goats not too far away from the Target, and like fields and all kinds of stuff. So it's like I'm not walking too far away from Target, and I stopped going to Target at night after people were driving by yelling racial slurs. And then I used to work at night, and when I would come home, like sometimes people would see me and see other people, and they would start yelling racial slurs and stuff. And it was like, yeah, I'm not going to really walk around here and do all that stuff too far away because people are yelling racial slurs. I'm not saying, well, actually I am saying, because I've even read in the newspaper that like this area is racist. And then I was like even on the neighborhood website, like saying the area I live in is racist. And then I got a lot of backlash. And then they were like, I know who you are. And then they pointed out who I was and where I go. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to publicly speak out specifically and give clues to where I live and that this town is kind of racist in the people. But one thing I've noticed, not everyone is or anything, because they've built the town up, and a lot of like newer people from the bigger cities are moving here because it's cheap and it's a good suburb and safe. but I've always said if I had kids, because I moved here like as an adult, like I didn't grow up here. I grew up nearby where it's more diverse, but that's still not diverse because most time I was like the only black kid in class, or the not necessarily black, because it was like they identified me as black because I was brown. But then when they saw my parents, they were like, oh, I'm not sure. But I'm brown, mixed, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but then again, some Indian people say they're white, some Indian people say they're black. It's always interesting. But I know who's going to ask me out because I've pretty much figured that out. More likely than not, a brown man, either black, Indian, is going to ask me out. And they'll expect me to have a light-skinned baby. And it's like, it's been said to my face, they expect me to have a light-skinned baby. But as far as my reviews for Match.com, my update of a review, I had really good success in Houston. Would I date any of those men from Houston? I'm thinking off the top of my head from the ones that I remember. I'm going to say no. And I haven't been on there that long, but as far as the people that have contacted me, would I date any of them? No. They're not my type. Would I date any of the men that contacted me in Atlanta? As far as being my type, maybe, I think maybe like one or two. And would I consider dating any of the ones from New York area, metro area? I considered one, we talked and everything, but it didn't work out because it was like, I didn't want to, he was like looking for something. He wasn't interested in long distance. He was looking for a wife and everything. It was like, I looked into it. We talked for a bit. And if I moved to New York, I'd basically have to redo my education and everything, all the stuff that I do for employment in California. I couldn't do there. I'd have to go back to school for a while to get all their certificates and everything and stuff to meet their requirements. So it was like, if I moved there, I would be a dependent. And it's like, we're not together. I'm not trying to move in with him or anything. And it's just like, that didn't work out. But that guy, he seemed cool, but he was set on finding a wife, and I wasn't set on moving there and basically being borderline homeless at any moment. Because I wasn't trying to move in with him, and he wasn't trying to have me move in with him. We were just talking. But he was a cool guy. He was a Polish guy that was very well off and working on his doctorate. And he wasn't too far away from retiring, so he didn't want to give up. And I didn't want to go and give up everything that I worked for in California. So it's kind of like, because it's like, it could have worked out if like job requirements on the East and West Coast were the same. But for some reason, New York had like different requirements, and like some of their requirements were like higher than California and like the New York, New Jersey area. Yeah, so that was interesting. And yeah, because I talked to a few people, but that was like the most serious guy I talked to. And like we talked for a bit. Yeah, because I've been trying out Match.com zip codes and stuff. And it's been interesting, but I think if I did, even though I don't want to move to New York because it's too much for me, and it's like, it would be fun to go into the city, but like culturally and everything, it's so different. And it's like, I don't want to offend anyone, but I feel if I move to New York, because I don't understand, I'm like, California, we're laid back, we're everything except in some places, but it's sometimes harder to offend a Californian with certain things in culture and everything, and I don't want to do that. So I don't think New York would be the best place for me. And then like Texas, Because, like, if I moved to Texas and I decided to date one of these, like, Nigerian guys or African guys, I really don't see that working out. Because, and also with the food, because I'm a picky eater. And the guys from New York, the stuff they eat, I wouldn't eat that. The guys from, like, Texas, they're in Texas, but they're, like, from Africa, and it's like, I'm not eating that. I've tried different things, and then plus I'm just a picky eater. But, like, if I married somebody or something from Texas, I could see it's just like a Texan. Like, I think we'd be better on, like, eating. Because, like, I like Tex-Mex and stuff. Am I going to eat a bunch of beef and all that kind of stuff? No, because I'm not a meat eater. But as far as Match.com, if you try different zip codes and different things, you get different results. And it's like, I think pretty much in my area, it's like people, transportation's not good. Not everybody drives. It's harder to get around. It's expensive to meet someone and go out and everything. But it's not that I don't have good luck on Match. It's like I meet people, but then when people realize where I live, because I don't use my actual zip code, I use a zip code closer to the metro area. So I meet tons of people in my area. Well, not in my area, but like not too far from my metro area, but it's a place where I go. And people are like, when I tell them where I actually live, and they're like, oh, where's that? And they're like, no, that's too far away. But I think in like certain metro areas, Match.com is better. Like, I would definitely recommend it depending on what city you live in. And also, would you fit in with that demographic? Like where I live, if I put in my actual zip code to where I live to meet someone on there, I've talked to people in my area and it's like, they're interesting. It's like what I know, what they know, it's not the same. And because it's like a really sheltered country area, and I wasn't raised as a sheltered country girl. So it doesn't really work for me in my area. But when I go to other places, well, I actually haven't tried it in other places, but who knows, it might work. Because I haven't, what I mean, I haven't tried in other places, like I didn't go to that city and try it and meet people. But as far as talking to people and seeing who likes me, I get a lot of responses and I reject a lot of the responses. Because there's that misconception that I can't find a husband. Well, I technically can find a husband. I'm just not interested. Because I wouldn't expect someone that didn't find me attractive or whatever to try and like date me and marry me. And a lot of the guys I don't find attractive, they're like trying to date me and stuff. And then also, I think a lot of it is colorism too. Because the men that are trying to date me, more specifically the black men, they're very dark skinned. And I'm on the lighter side and I have relatively long hair. So I'm light skinned with longer hair and I look mixed. And it seems like they might be colorist because I don't really have too many light skinned guys in like the Texas area, like in the New York area. I have a lot of like Dominican, Puerto Rican, and then also I speak multiple languages. So I can communicate more with people in New York that contact me that speak different languages and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. I'll update this with more interesting stuff, but over time. But it was an interesting tryout, especially with Texas. Yeah, because Texas, it was like mainly Africans, Middle Eastern, and some Latino men and a few white men. But in my area, I get a lot more white men. And I do get Africans, but not as many Africans. But I get a lot of Indian guys. And one thing I noticed with the Indian men and the black men, they're all much darker than me. And I feel like it might be colorist. Yeah, because from reading their profiles and my profile, we had nothing in common. I might have had some things in common with the Indian men, but with the African men, as far as like interests and stuff, we had nothing in common. It was like, you probably just like the way I look and that I was light skinned and had a decent length of hair. Yeah, because my hair is like, well, at least like midway through my back. So it's always interesting to see. And then when people are like, oh, you have such beautiful skin. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then they're like, oh, you have such beautiful eyes. Yeah, and it's like, are you saying that because I kind of look, I'm not going to say I look racially ambiguous, but I definitely look mixed. I'm brown, and it's like, I can pass for quite a few different things. And some of those things might be my ethnic background. So it's always interesting. But then another thing that's always interesting, when people tell me I have a white mother. Yeah, but I mainly get that from like black women that say I have a white mother, which is always interesting. But this is my review on Match.com, and I'll keep them coming and let you know how the dating's going. If you like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.